And this really begins, it's the best time for the samurai because they're growing in numbers, they're becoming much more popular. And so the Hojo regents decide that, you know what, we need a set of official rules and moral codes so that the samurai class has something to live by, something that they could abide by in their daily lives. Okay? And so in the year 1232, the Hojo regents published something called the Joei Code. Okay? And this Joei Code is essentially like a constitution for the samurai. It contains 51 articles, and it's basically a list of rules that tell the samurai how they have to live, what they have to do, how they have to live morally and virtuously, and if there's ever a conflict, what they have to do. So it's a law code written for the samurai, by the Hojo regents specifically. Okay, and the Hojo clan also creates something called a Council of State. This is located in Kamakura. Okay, and so if there was ever, it's kind of, think of it like a parliament almost for the samurai. If there's ever an issue, the Hojo regents would meet in the Council of State and discuss political, social, economic issues. And so the Hojo really continue Yoritomo's legacy very well in sending governors from Kamakura all across the country. And so every province has a provincial governor, a representative from Kamakura that was sent directly from the Hojo clan and reported back to the Hojo clan. Okay, so the Joei Code and the Council of State system that the Hojo clan develops, of course, it's based on Yoritomo's ideas, but the Hojo really do a good job of preserving his legacy. And so the Kamakura Shogunate is actually very, very stable in Japan. There's no strife. It's a very, very stable government. Things go very, very smoothly for them. And between the years 1232 and 1274, it's very peaceful. The country's at peace. Things are actually going pretty well in the countryside. But it's a very interesting political system because both the Kyoto Emperor and the Shogun in Kamakura have no power. The real power is in the hands of the Hojo regents, okay? But the Hojo did not rule as despots. They were very fair. They had a law code. They were very, they did a good job of governing. And they had direct control of the provinces. So that's why, even though they were fair in governing, the provinces would never rebel because each province had a governor sent from the Hojo clan. So it was very difficult for anybody to rebel against the Hojo. And actually, most of the samurai class really appreciated the rule of the Hojo regents. Okay. But while the Kamakura shogunate was enjoying this peaceful time, we have across the ocean, in the Asian continent, you have the Mongols, who are conquering various Asian countries, and they were led by Kublai Khan, who was I believe, the grandson of Genghis Khan. And under the rule of Kublai Khan, the Mongols really consolidate their power. They conquer both China and Korea in the mid 1200s. And now they turn their attention to Japan, across the Sea of Japan. And so the Mongols, they say, let's try and see if we can get them without fighting. So the Mongols send messengers to Japan in the 1270s. They come to Kamakura and they visit the Hojo regent. At the time, his name was Hojo Tokimune. Okay, and the Mongols tell Japan, just surrender. We've already defeated China. We've defeated Korea. You don't stand a chance. Please, we're gonna come. And the Hojo regent Tokimune says no. And not only does he say no, he actually has the Mongol messengers publicly beheaded in Kamakura. This was sending a message to the Mongols that we're not messing around. And so in the year 1274, the Mongols, with 90,000 Mongol forces, these were not just ethnic Mongols, they also included Chinese and Korean conscripted forces, since the Mongols controlled these areas. The Mongols invade Japan, and they land on a bay in northern Kyushu, near the city of Hakata, which is today known as Fukuoka. And they attack, they essentially invade. The Mongols were very powerful. They actually had cannons. They were very well organized. And so the Japanese really had no chance to defeat the Mongols. But the Hojo said, we have to try. We're samurai. We will die with honor. We're going to try our best to defeat the Mongols. So this shows the Mongols versus the Japanese. And, keep in mind, the Japanese have never actually had to defend their country from foreign invasion before. This is the first time that Japan has ever been invaded by a foreign army. But even though the odds were against him, the Hojo regent, Tokimune, didn't give up hope. But before the Mongols could officially invade, they landed, before they could invade further inland, a huge typhoon came out of nowhere and completely destroyed the Mongol forces who had landed, and actually ended up having to send them back to China. So it's very interesting because this typhoon came out of nowhere, and it just completely defeated the Mongol forces before they could invade. Very, very odd. Okay. So the Japanese are okay for now, but there's really no celebration because everybody knew the Mongols are going to come back. They're not going to let that, hold them back. And so, sure enough, in the late 1270s, the Mongols sent more messengers to Kamakura. They said, "We're going to come back. Are you sure you don't want to, we're going to beat you this time. Are you sure you don't want to surrender?" And Tokimune did the same thing. He had them beheaded again in Kamakura. And so in 1280, everybody knew that the Mongols are going to come back any year now. It's going to be a matter of time, and the Mongols are back. They're going to be back. So Hojo Tokimune, the regent, he had all the Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines in Japan pray for protection to the gods from the Mongols. And at the same time as that, he constructed this large wall, a stone wall, on the beach in Hakata, which is where the Mongols invaded the first time, to block the invaders in case they ever came again. And if you go to Hakata, you can actually see the ruins of the wall here. This stone wall, it still stands today. So sure enough, in 1281, the Mongols invaded again with a much larger force. 140,000 troops invade Japan in 1281. And they essentially hold out for 2 whole months. At this point, everybody thinks, we're done for in Japan. But sure enough, this time, very oddly enough, another typhoon hits in 1281 and completely defeats the Mongol forces. So the Japanese don't have to fight because the typhoon just out of nowhere, it's really random because it's summer, there were no typhoons, and it just completely wipes out the Mongol forces. But in addition to that, there was a lot of disorganization among the Mongol forces the second time because, first of all, there were linguistic barriers. The generals are Mongols, but the conscripts, the people who are doing the fighting, are Chinese and Korean troops. And the Chinese and the Koreans were actually being occupied by the Mongols, so they didn't want to fight for the Mongols. They were, after all, also a conquered country, and so they didn't want to fight for the enemy. So there was a lot of disorganization, a lot of trouble, and so that was another reason behind why the Mongols might not have been able to conquer Japan as easily as they possibly could have. And this is an image of the Mongols being destroyed by that huge typhoon that came out of nowhere. And another one as well. This shows the Japanese defeating the Mongols as the typhoon wipes them out completely. So this typhoon was very odd because it was summer of 1281. Usually, it was before summer actually, so it was not that. It was a time where typhoons are not that prone. A little early for typhoon season. Okay, it's the beginning of summer. Typhoons don't really happen that early on. So the Japanese believe that this typhoon was sent by the kami to protect the motherland, the home of the gods, from invasion. And so they call this kamikaze, or the divine wind, the godly wind. And if you might remember, if you've studied anything about World War II history, you might know that this was the name of the suicide pilots who would attack American naval carriers during the war. So this is where they get the title from. The kamikaze was a divine wind that defeated the Mongols and helped protect Japan. So the Mongols never attacked Japan again after that. Hojo Tokimune dies in 1284, the Hojo regent. He's hailed as a hero by the imperial family for saving Japan. And after the death of Kublai Khan in 1294, the Mongols ceased to be a threat to Japan. Japan was now safe from the Mongols.